Hey, hi, welcome. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. Do you know what 2023 brought with it? Inflation. Yes, that's what it brought with it. Inflation. Don't know whose fault it is, but it brought with it inflation. And along with inflation, well, comes the question that people always ask. Can we cut training to cope with inflation? And the answer is no, don't. Don't do it. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about 3 different reasons why you need to maintain your safety training, and then give you some contingencies, some ideas to think about where it might be less of a budget hit. And by all means, please do me a favor. Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you in your comments, and I want to know what you think about safety training, the value of it, and is it a necessary budgetary responsibility? Because your opinion might differ, and it's okay if you have a different opinion, by all means. But realistically, the biggest thing and the first number one reason why you want to maintain safety training is simply this. Safety training increases and fosters a strong safety culture. It absolutely does. And with that strong safety culture comes a safety awareness. Because for a couple of reasons. Number one is when people are taking safety training, safety ends up in the forefront of their minds. It becomes more than just a checkbox on a to-do list. Oh, sweep the floor, be safe. People have a feeling that they're being invested in, and because they have that feeling of being invested in, you know what?
No, what?
They're going to have this idea that safety is a benefit, and working safely is a benefit to them and the organization. Safety helps you to maintain legislative compliance. It absolutely does. And of course, there's those prescriptive things. Like a lot of times, a lot of jurisdictions will have prescriptive legislation on fall protection training for working at heights, or they'll have prescriptive training on confined space entry, or certain things on electrical work, etc. But not only that, other safety training, say, for instance, for conducting worksite inspections, hazard assessments, etc. When you're doing that, it fosters that strong safety culture, but it also helps you to maintain legislative compliance. Because most legislation will say that workers have to be sufficiently trained so that they can do their jobs safely without incurring any hazards or hazardous situations. It's not exact wording, but it's a bit of a paraphrase. The other thing is safety training is a risk control. It absolutely is. It's a risk control. We have different types of controls, engineering controls, administrative controls, and PPE. Safety training is an administrative control. What it does is it provides that behavioral change, that behavioral influence for workers. Administrative controls influence worker behavior. If you're providing safety training, then what you're doing is you're positively influencing that behavior. So it's a must do. It's a to do. It's something that you absolutely need to do. So when you're making your business case or pushing your business case to senior management, executive, etc., you can use some of those. And then some of the contingencies that you might want to reiterate, and one of the biggest ones is to consider being part of an industry association. A lot of times there will be, and depending on the jurisdiction you work in, there'll be industry associations. Like in Alberta here, we have the Alberta Construction Safety Association. We have the Association of Safety Partnerships. We have the Continuing Care Safety Association. There's lots of different safety associations for different sectors. And what they do is they will offer targeted training to their industry sector groups. A lot of times the membership is free. It's paid for by your WCB levies or your insurer levies. But look into it and become part of an industry association. A lot of times you can get your training at reduced costs, or they can provide targeted training for you for a bit of a cost, depending on the situation. I would strongly urge that. The next thing is consider becoming a safety partner. What I'm talking about is partner with other similar small businesses to increase your purchasing power. When I owned my own first aid and safety training agency, what I used to do is give a reduction in tuition costs based on numbers alone. So if, say, for instance, an organization came in and they said to me, I have 100 people to train, my per seat cost would go down to get that 100 person or 100 people on the list. So if you have a small construction company where you have 15 to 20 people, search out other construction companies that are in similar circumstances and see if you can band together and increase your purchasing power, basically forming your own small industry association. Another thing to consider is the value of investing in in-house training. What I'm saying by that is I'm saying identify people in your organization who would be good instructors, who would be good presenters, and then consider using them to promote your safety training. I've trained before, I've trained people to be first aid instructors for organizations. I knew organizations who have paid for and invested in having their people trained to do forklift training, fall protection training, etc. So it's something to think about. The other thing to consider is it, if you have existing contracts in place, can you renegotiate those contracts? Because the last thing that providers want to do is form a bad relationship. And if it's a difficult time for you, say your WCB premiums have gone up, your other insurance premiums have gone up, you're bound by contract negotiations already to increase wages for your workers, there's got to be give and take somewhere. So if you have to renegotiate your training fees that you're paying to other service providers, a lot of times they're willing to do that. I know I've done it, and so it's worth a shot to try and ask. It is. Richard Branson had this saying. He said, train people well enough so that they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to, they want to stay. And realistically, what he's done in saying that is he's embodied the whole ball of wax. Basically, what's happened is you're training people to have an exemplary workforce. You've invested in them so they feel like they're invested in. And when you're doing that, they're going to have a desire to stay. I'm not saying that they won't leave. It's a distinct possibility. It's a risk you run. But in the same token, it's a good move. When you're doing that, what you're doing is, like I said, you're creating a good, strong safety culture. You are complying with the legislation, and workers feel that they're invested in, and you're simply creating a safer workplace. Now, if you're thinking of training and you maybe want to just look over incident investigation, have a look at this playlist up here. And it talks about incident investigation theory and practice. Now, until we see each other again, and I really hope we do, don't just think about safety, don't just talk about safety, but be a safety leader. Provoke safety wherever you are. Okay? Take care. Bye for now.